Welcome to Great Talk and Entertainment. I'm your host, KJ, and this is the podcast where we review movies and TV shows from all your favorite superheroes, including Marvel Comics, DC Comics, and much more. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talk and Entertainment official channel. Now let's go, baby! Now let's continue on from the new HBO Max series, The Last of Us. This is episode 7, spoiler review. So you've been warned. So you have not seen this show, definitely pause this. Give me a thumbs up, hit the thumbs up button, watch it, and then come back and let me know what you guys think about episode 7 or any past episode or just the whole series so far. Let me know in the comments below. So again, this is a spoiler. You've been warned. Let's get into it. Episode 7 continues after Joel was stabbed by a piece of wood from the baseball bat that he was attacked by some savages or raiders type. Joel and Ellie are in an abandoned house with little to nothing of medical supplies to help Joel out. No alcohol, no bandage, but Ellie did find a sewing string and sewing needle to sew up the open exposed wound that had a ton of blood that was killing Joel. And during that split second before she runs back upstairs, because they had him in the basement of this abandoned house, we get a huge flashback of what Ellie was doing before she met Joel, Tess, and others. And obviously we see the beginning of her. So this is like a few months after the outbreak of this fungus, and she was already seeing some horrible things. She's locked up in a correction facility type, but just abandoned buildings of just trying to teach young kids to teenagers to young adults who are about to have a role of being like an officer or maybe, burying dead bodies or whatever part to do to live in this new civilization of how people are living in certain the quote unquote safe zones. But also we meet a new character named Riley, who is her best friend. During that time period, Ellie was ready to join the officer squad because even though she's been causing a lot of trouble and she's known for a bad attitude, and we see that she gets in a confrontation with another fellow woman or girl who is, picking on her, making fun of her, trying to take her Walkman, and talking smack about her friend Riley, which ends up into a fist fight. And she gets in trouble. But this correction officer was like, was just tired of it. Was trying to get her to realize that, hey, things are about to change. And all of a sudden the conversation turned differently where this officer was telling Ellie that he sees a lot of potential out of her as far as like a leadership, and said, look, if you can get your act up clean, you can join the officer side of this place in this like safe zone. And of course this shows that Ellie was going to go for it and that she has accepted that this was going to be her new normal life of how they were living, which I think was very interesting. From what we've seen Ellie from obviously like episode 1 through now, you would never expect of Ellie being that type of person to be eager. She's always seemed so rebellious against the ways, against politics, against how other people are. And she, from the time period now where she's spending time with Joel and all the events that has occurred, including this current event where, Joel's like on his deathbed in a way, and she shows this very rebellious side and thinks there's a better way than what this was living. But in this time period, Ellie was going to accept this. But later on the show, we see that Riley comes back, and then we get the whole episode of Riley and Ellie's like story. And it's basically just two girls, having fun in an abandoned mall scene. And we see that, they're just being teenagers. They're being young adults. They're talking about their feelings. They're talking about things they would never talk to an adult or a parent or a teacher or somebody who is in charge of them. Just typical teenager stuff. And this was kind of like a Breakfast Club, any teenage show like Riverdale type, Full House type conversations with teenagers, talking amongst their peers, basically, but more in a post-apocalypse of this affected fungus that has taken over the world, basically. So we see that, in there, they get on this like merry-go-round and they're just having fun. They're trying on clothes. They're wearing like scary masks. They're dancing to one of Ellie's favorite songs by what's the band called? Look, it's called Aha. That's the name of the band. The song is called Take Me On, and they're dancing to that and just having fun. Like, obviously, you see them playing around. They're playing in the arcades, playing Mortal Kombat 2, which we see the Mortal Kombat 2 poster in Ellie and Riley's room or dome room, wherever they may call it. And then we learn that Riley has left. This is actually their last time seeing each other, because Riley has decided that she's going to join the Fighterflies, which is very interesting because this explains why Ellie is so more eager to want to join now in the present time, and how she's willing to go along, and that she was actually looking for him because Riley is what gives her hope. But even though that we see how what this is the same day Riley and Ellie have gotten bitten by somebody who's infected by the fungus, and which was a sad moment, because in this episode we also see that these two had true feelings for each other, as we see them kiss each other, because they actually like each other. And there's, because this is in a war where they're scared, but we see that Riley did have her parents, and she watched them turn. She watched them lose her parents. While Ellie, before this a fungus happened, she was already somewhat abandoned from her parents and living on the streets in some type of way, just having a hard time basically in life, like a lot of struggles basically. And you see how Riley was raging and hitting that glass case of like jewelry and stuff that you would see at like the mall or like K Jewelers type thing. And Riley's on the floor just defeated, sad, showing different emotions, because Riley's comes from a place where she had both her parents. She probably lived in a good neighborhood, and this whole thing taken away. So you see two different views of this story of this event that has happened to the world, which I really like that, because at the end we see that in that moment Ellie goes back and sews up Joel, because this shows that whether they never confirmed that Riley turned or died, because the last thing that in that conversation in this flashback, Riley just said, "Let's just move forward until it happens," basically, because they don't have the heart to take each other's life like Bill and Frank did. And so it indicates, but it came out with a lot. I have came up with a theory or a thought, basically, which I'll share later in this discussion. But we see that with these two going through it, so it kind of tells me in a way that this past event between Ellie and Riley, Ellie was very determined to keep Joel alive because, it's been a long time since she had somebody that she actually cared for or considered family. And Joel is her family. This is the one person that she cares about now. Even though that she still has slight hope for maybe Riley to still be alive, because we don't know so far. I never played, again, as I like to make this clear, I have never played the video game The Last of Us Part 1 or Part 2, and I'm just going based off the show. So, if you're gonna, obviously this is a spoiler review, but you guys don't have to spoil it like video game spoilers to the whole world, but I can't stop nobody on that. But just based off the show, this show, not the video game, I can guess that Riley could be alive, and maybe Riley also maybe her blood is also curable. Maybe her blood has the cure too. Maybe Ellie's not the only one who can cure this fungus affection. But that's what it kind of leaves the door open. But every time we watch an episode that has a story, a whole episode, whether it's like Bill or Frank, Tess or Joel, Tommy and Joel, whatever the case may be, or even Henry, the Henry story, and that was just a thing where this show does not hold back. This show does not keep the characters alive. So there is a strong chance that Riley could be already dead, or and whether it's by Ellie or by somebody else. But the idea is they left that open either for this next, for episode 8, or or she could be alive. Who knows? But it's very interesting. But I'll start with one of the theories that I came up with. So, theory 1: if she's alive, my theory is this: either Ellie and Riley are the few people in this world that their blood could be the one that helped come up with the cure to overcome this a fungus, or maybe Riley is the right person, and Ellie was just lucky enough to get some of it. But then again, I know that Ellie tried that with the little boy Henry, and obviously it didn't work. But it just shows that it could go that way. But that'd be very interesting to see if Riley and Ellie were the two people that could be the cure for this. So that's one of them. My other theory is if she's dead, my one theory is there's a much darker side. Maybe Ellie wants to get revenge on I forgot the woman's name who drafted Riley to the Fighter Flyers, but maybe, just maybe, Ellie wants to get revenge on her on that particular woman who convinced Riley to join their group. And maybe that's a secret agenda that Joel don't know about, but that's a possibility of it. So that's just one of the things I got out of it, and I think it could be a possibility of that if they weren't going their route. Now, do I think Joel lives? I think so. I think this is the one time we see somebody actually survive and live through this. Like, I think that, but I think this is gonna take a lot of toll on Joel. And now I think in the next episode, like episode 8, there we might, because during the previews, like, it kind of indicates that Ellie's gonna be the one that's gonna be, carrying Joel's slack. Joel's gonna try to do heroic things and try to push forward, but with the wound that big on his stomach, any dangerous or intense event that could reopen up that wound is dangerous for Joel. So it looks like Ellie's gonna have to be one to be again carrying up the slack, which is gonna be a very interesting dynamic view of it because we never really seen that side of Ellie. And episode 8 is kind of, indicating to that. But again, we'll see Joel do some heroic things, of course, but we're going to see a wounded Joel, a Joel that, has a little bit of limitations. This is the Joel where, Ellie has to step up and be the one to protect him now, just until he heals up enough, however long that may take. So it's a lot going on, but I definitely really enjoyed this episode. Again, I'm still leaning towards that Riley is still alive, and I think there's a bigger, more story to this thing between Ellie and Riley when it comes to the fighter flyers, because I think we're finally going to start seeing or discovering more information about them. So I'm definitely still going to be that, and I definitely think that Riley is. I think Riley also knows that Ellie is the cure for this affected fungus, and I think she's gonna be the one to try to kidnap her, and they be the one to save it or use it for whatever reason the firefighters want to use this to, quote unquote, rechange the world again. So definitely be interesting to see. So 1 out of 10. I'm giving this episode a straight 10. It was a great episode, just seeing a little bit more of the history of Ellie during one period of time of this post-apocalypse, and I really enjoyed this episode. I think the whole cast did an amazing job. I really liked the cinematic photography within the mall, and I really like how, they were just showing, like, Ellie being a fan of, like, the No Pun Intended book, Starlight comic book, her being a fan of Mortal Kombat 2, or just being a fan of arcade games, just like any other teenager or anybody who loves going to arcades like myself just enjoys. And obviously the classic merry-go-round was a great touch on this story, so I definitely enjoyed this, and I can't wait for episode 8. So thank you for my review. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talking Entertainment official channel. Subscribe, hit that notification button so you can always be updated with all my latest content. Thank you and peace.